This guitar represents a whole year of my life, and what a year it was. Today we're going to do a little story time, and I'm going to talk about the Jaws guitar and why it exists. This year, 2025, is the 50th anniversary of the movie Jaws. So I have been seeing Jaws 50th anniversary stuff all over the place. And so I figured this was probably a pretty good time to bust out the Jaws guitar and talk about it. But not just because of the guitar itself, because of what it represents to me and the time of my life, the stuff that I was going through, and how it sort of mirrors, in a way, my life right now. During this time period, there were two things that I thought at the time were going to be like my big break, and that actually turned out to just be fantastic lessons in failure. One of them was that I released the first full-length In Virtue album, which is called Embrace the Horror. In 2013, I was living, you cannot make this up, this is real. I was living in the parking lot of a bar. There's like a tiny village of mobile homes in this bar's parking lot. I actually shot the very first Gear Gods review video in that trailer, and oh boy, that's a throwback. And I moved there for a year after living in Napa and teaching at the Napa School of Music. At the time, I was still teaching there, but I knew that it wasn't really for me. I'd been teaching there for 5 years, and I sort of finally admitted to myself that teaching private lessons for guitar or on any instrument is the most dead-end job ever. But that's where I was at. I was about to turn 30, and I was straight up freaking the fuck out. I was feeling like I hadn't done anything with my life at all. And I was right. And the fact is that even though I wasn't really acknowledging it, the band as I knew it was falling apart. So how that relates to 2025 Trey is that I have to be very conscious of all of this stuff now as we gear up to release the new In Virtue album, Age of Legends, which is the follow-up to Embrace the Horror 11, 12 years later. But it is really coming. We have a release date and everything. And more than anything else, I just want to make sure that it does not suffer the same fate. So if you're interested and you want to be part of that, you can hit the link in the description to pre-save, pre-order the album. We very much appreciate it. And honestly, I just don't want history to repeat itself. So there I was, living as trailer trash in the parking lot of a bar, immediately next door to a Taco Bell. I could throw a rock not that hard and hit a Taco Bell. I was feeling like a failure, but rather than buckle down and tackle the problem, what I did instead was start a new hobby, basically. As a person with ADHD, I feel like I have to monetize all of my hobbies, otherwise I'll only do things that I like and never make any money. Could not tell you what inspired me to do this, but I got a wild hair up my ass, and I was like, I'm going to decoupage some guitars. Decoupage is the art of gluing pieces of paper to stuff, and I've always really liked mosaics, and so I combined the art of decoupage with mosaic, and I spent an entire goddamn year of my life gluing teeny tiny pieces of paper to this guitar to recreate the cover of the Jaws movie. Why? Why did I do this? Every person who sees this thinks that it's tape. It's not tape. So I cut up probably hundreds of pages of magazines into teeny tiny little squares, and I glued them onto this guitar. There are thousands of tiny little pieces of paper glued to this guitar. It is absolutely a one-of-a-kind piece of art. I am not any kind of visual artist. Aside from video, I don't draw, I don't paint. Nobody's gonna pay me to make art. So this guitar is an Ibanez RG 5EX1. It was a Guitar Center exclusive, and I bought it used because somewhere on it, I don't remember where now, it has like a big chunk taken out of it. And I was like, that's perfect. I'm gonna cover it up anyways. And I got it for a steal. I think it was like 250 bucks. And it is weirdly a great guitar. It still plays really well. The action is great. I love the reverse headstock. If I'm gonna have an Ibanez, I gotta have it. So you may actually recognize this guitar from a pretty popular video that I did called A New Guitar Tuning Inside Out Standard. So it is still in this kind of wacky tuning, still EADGBE, but all of the octaves are wrong. It's not upside down, it's not left-handed tuning. Realistically, I should have called it like octave displacement tuning or something, because that's really what it is. For example, if I just play a G major scale, It didn't catch on. But my buddy Pete Cottrell did do a whole video using this tuning, and I thought that was pretty cool. So why did I pick Jaws to dedicate a whole year of my life? It's very simple. On that In Virtue album that we released, we had a song called Dead Black Eyes. And it's about the world flooding, ice caps melt, and the whole world becomes Waterworld, basically, and everyone gets eaten by sharks. So the whole album is like a concept album about different kinds of apocalypse scenarios. That one was one of my favorite songs at the time, and I developed a little bit of a fascination with sharks. So I just decided to sort of recreate the most iconic possible shark-themed piece of fiction in the history of sharks. I don't think I ever actually used it to play that song on stage, because by the time I finished it, we weren't playing shows. I did discover that I really loved the process of it, and I think that's maybe why I stuck with it for so long, because I would sit there doing this for hours and watch just like whole seasons of TV shows. I think I watched most of Breaking Bad during this era, and seeing something really come together over a long time period was really satisfying to me. I also had the opportunity to meet Paul Gilbert during this time, and I got him to sign it. In the end, it turned out pretty great, and I'm very proud of it, but that's not the end of the story. The next part is like a little bit embarrassing. Like I said, wanted to monetize this. I wanted to turn it into a business where I did this for people. They pay me to do this. Now, in retrospect, that's obviously folly. How much could I possibly charge to make that worth it? So I made a whole website. I paid someone to take professional photos of this guitar. Pay me to ruin your guitar. Unsurprisingly, no one took me up on the offer, but this is where my second, what I thought would be my big break, comes in. So I took those pictures of the guitar and I sent them into Guitar World, who at the time were doing this thing on the back page called It Might Get Weird, where they showcased weird guitars. I have no idea if they still do that. I was like, come on, this is kind of weird, right? Also because it is largely made of Guitar World issues. And they agreed. They were like, yeah, that's cool. And they published this fucking guitar in Guitar World. In that moment, I was beyond stoked. So they actually published it in this issue. Like, I've always wanted to be in Guitar World. Not really for this. I was kind of hoping someday I'd get in for my music. But I went back and I looked just now at my Facebook post at the time regarding this, how stoked I was. Well, I can die happy now. I've officially done something with my life. Man, I must have felt like such a miserable failure then. One of my lifelong dreams fulfilled. My name and my band's name are in the pages of Guitar World magazine. So when I got the news that they were going to publish this, I FaceTimed my two best friends. Straight up, I was eating a full triple berry tart from Trader Joe's. And they were like, what? And I was like, I did it! Like, this is cool as hell. There's no question. But that was the end of it. Literally nothing ever came of it. Not a single order or an email or anything at all. And at the time, it felt like a miserable failure. Felt like a rejection. It felt awful. In retrospect, it was definitely the best way that that could have gone down. Like, what would have happened if I gotten a ton of orders, if it had become my full-time job? Is that really what I wanted to do? I probably would have lasted 6 months. I got it like clear coated by a local guitar guy. And then I sort of just packed it away and didn't think about it. And then I sort of torpedoed my whole life. Like I said, I was freaking out about turning 30. I was feeling like I had accomplished nothing. The truth is that I was right. I was rotting there. But instead of just letting myself rot and be miserable, I did something about it. I did a bunch of things, actually. Quit my job. I gave up my apartment. I put everything that I owned into storage, except for one suitcase, and I went on tour. I joined a band called Vengeance. It's not the one you're thinking of. We did 31 or 32 shows all across Europe as part of the European Retribution Tour as a co-headliner with this band Ectomorph from Hungary, and it was fucking great. Let me tell you, I have never in my life felt more free than I did sitting at the airport getting ready to leave. The only things that I had with me were one bass that I borrowed and my suitcase full of stuff, and not an obligation in the world except to get on that plane and go play these shows. And when I got back, I changed basically everything about my life. I moved from the Bay Area down to LA, where I have lived ever since. Did Gear Gods, and then I bought Gear Gods, and I've been doing full-time content creation for 11 years now. I think YouTube said I've been on here for 11 years, which is pretty amazing. And I learned so much from all of these things. The first of which, possibly the most important lesson in this, is that there is no making it. Making it does not exist. There's no mountaintop. There's only more peaks and more climbing to do. So if you're not loving the process, like I did with making this, no matter what, you're going to probably be miserable. If what you're doing is chasing these achievements, thinking that those are going to make you happy, then you'll never be happy. I'm also glad that I did not fall victim any longer than that 1 year to the sunk cost fallacy. So this is something I've been thinking about a lot recently. This applies to songwriting as well, and I cover it in my new course, Song Finisher, which you can get at the link in the description. It applies to basically every facet of life. It's just feeling like you need to stick with something because you've already put so much into it, instead of making the right decision, the better decision. At that point, In Virtue had been a band for 10 years, and I didn't really realize that, love my bandmates though I do, they weren't in it for the long haul. They weren't music lifers like I am. But at the time I didn't realize that. Giving up on all of those things, including what I thought was going to be a business, was the best thing I could have done. People say don't give up. Sometimes you should give up. Sometimes giving up is the best thing you can do. I gave up on things that were not working, that were not serving me anymore. And my whole life got infinitely better in every single way. I've built this YouTube channel that I love. I get to make music every day, and I am super happy and stoked. And I don't really consider that time to be wasted necessarily. In a lot of ways it was, but I spent a lot of that time gaining new skills. That's when I learned to sing while I was teaching at the Napa School of Music. I also wrote my whole first course while I was working there, Relationships, that started as just a lesson for my advanced students on scales. And if I hadn't done all that stuff, then the person that I am now wouldn't exist. And I like that guy a lot. Like, I never thought of myself as a singer, but I took lessons basically the whole time that I taught there, and now I'm the singer of my band. And I learned from all of the mistakes that I made during that time, not the least of which is that marketing is one of the most important things in music. I made this album that I was super proud of, whether or not it's actually any good, and nothing happened with it because I didn't know how to market it. And I'm not gonna make that mistake again. The new In Virtue album, Age of Legends, is coming out. We have a release date. You can pre-save it at the link in the description now. And I thought of a pretty cool way in which Trey from that time period and the work that he did over the course of a year can keep Trey from 2025 from experiencing that same problem. And that's to auction off this guitar that I made during that time to help pay for the marketing and production and everything for this album, Age of Legends, that's coming out. To me, that's kind of a perfect full circle moment. If you're interested in buying this guitar, I can tell you right now, it is not going to be cheap. This is a year, and it is a one-of-a-kind piece of art done by hand. It'll be a little hard for me to let it go. You know, it represents a very important time in my life, but moving forward always means letting go. This is a part of a Trey that doesn't exist anymore, but he's reaching through time to help me out. And if you would also like to help me out and support the album release or bid on this guitar, hit the links in the description to check that out. Myself and the band immensely appreciate the support, and of course I appreciate all of the support that you've given me over the last 11 years here on YouTube, which is crazy to think. And because of that support and everything that I've learned since the last time I put out an album and that whole year that I spent making this guitar, I no longer feel like a failure, because now I know there is no mountaintop. Nobody makes it. There's no making it. There's only this. And I'm a happy boy right now. So that is the story of this, my weirdest guitar. Thanks so much for watching. Stay squishy, and I'll see you real soon.